Hello, and welcome to CLEA'S World. I am Clea, and today I would like to share with you more of the information I've received from the 25th dimension during my last BQH hypnosis session. I'll be reading from a transcript of the session, and when I refer to Lorrayne, I'm speaking of my practitioner who's asking me questions I prepared in advance of the session, and when I refer to me, I'm speaking of myself under hypnosis, which means the answers are coming from the 25th. And before moving forward, I want to thank you, as always, for subscribing, liking, and commenting on this video. It really makes a difference for me, so I don't feel like I'm just talking to the void here. So I know for you guys, you might feel like, oh, what difference does it make? You know, if I just say hi, it makes a huge difference, believe me. So I always appreciate your comments. All right, I'm going to start reading here. Lorrayne. How imbalanced were the other 3D planets before we started changing things in the multiverse in terms of rebalancing polarity here? And how are they doing now? And the reason I wanted to hear what the 25th had to say about the other 3D planets is because if you have seen my previous videos that talk about this topic, they have, the 25th has told us that the dark is very, very good, much better than the team of the light at playing the game at 3D level. And therefore, pretty much all the 3D planets in the multiverse are enslaved to something. In our case, it's been money. That's been the pivotal thing that's made a difference here in terms of increasing the darkness and decreasing the fun that we've had here. And for the other planets, it's a matter of technology. So they are actually enslaved to AI or by AI. All right, so me. So they were already, and we realized that we use percentages in a manner that might be confusing, so we like to clarify. When we say, and they're clarifying what they said in the previous video, where they talk about percentages in terms of, in order to explain to us what peaks we've reached here and so on and so forth. When we say 46 to 47%, what we meant was at 3 or 4 points below the 50% line, and assuming this midline where there's perfect polarity. We already know it's a range. They told us it's a range more than just 50-50. We really meant 47% unbalanced polarity. This is our range. This is what we meant to say. So 3 or 4 points below the 50% line, and so we're dipping down into darkness, is a lot already, okay? So when we said it goes up to 60% for darkness, we really meant to say that basically the light was 40%, okay? It still works out, but we want to make sure that we translate what we're trying to say properly. The other 3D planets have gone basically, they have not dipped into the 60% darkness basically, or 40% light. They have, however, hovered very much above the range. They're outside the range already. They very much have reached tipping points that were sometimes very, very close to 60%. So they might have been at 58 to 59% darkness. Now, they are enslaved. There have been times when they have actually gone very, very close, as we said, to 60. You might even call it 60%. And the only reason we have not called for a takedown on them is because they do vary. They have more variability than we have had here, but also because we have been so focused on this planet that we decided not to take down these other planets, because the fact is they've had times when, in other circumstances, a takedown would have been called as well. We have said that they've been enslaved by AI and they have not enjoyed themselves. Now, we speak in the past. Of course, there is no past, but we speak in past terms for the simple reason that now they are recalibrating themselves. And we referred to this before when we spoke first about input, the new input in the matrix, which has really improved, if you want to think of it in those terms, the game everywhere. And so, of course, they have benefited from that, but also the fact of all the work we've done here. First of all, when we brought in information from the 25th, we already said this is percolating everywhere. And so, of course, it's changing the vibration everywhere as it is for the people who are ready to, for everybody really, because we all know it. We all know everything once the information is available in the matrix. It's available to all. But also at a conscious level for people who have wanted to bring this in. This, of course, will create a new type of awareness, just like it's happened to us, but also because we went into we're getting close to the takedown, the original takedown deadline, And now we're in overtime and we are learning we can create our reality. We've also mentioned that this is huge and we are changing everything. These planets are not separate from us, as we know by now that nothing is separate within the matrix. It's just pretense of separation. And therefore, they are recalibrating themselves. And so they've shed a lot of the negative or dark situations that they've had before. They don't have to worry about keeping a shell in place, so they can proactively, knowingly work at improving things. Because again, they're not going anywhere. They actually have to change their society, which doesn't mean it's all a bed of roses. We described this before, like people think, you know, the people that want disclosure, the people that say, oh, let's collapse the governments, yay, which is all of us really. We're all happy, obviously, about no more governments, no more dark institutions hovering over us. But a lot of people will think, oh yeah, we're ready, let's do this. You would have to rebuild it. And it does cause a lot of mayhem. You're basically changing a society. Now, we already said, on other planets, when things are imbalanced, they integrate, they reintegrate, they calibrate as quickly as possible, which is not immediate. It doesn't mean it's instantaneous. They're just like us. These are humans who live human lives, and not all of them, obviously, but most people in the multiverse, we discussed this before, are humans. And so you know that we don't move very fast. On other planets, some things move faster than here. Obviously, 3D is much more dense and slow. But these other planets have also taken some time because they don't let things go overboard. They're able to recalibrate within a certain amount of time. And they might not have to destroy their entire reality, entire society, and rebuild it. Whereas on these 3D planets, we already mentioned they were almost as far gone as we were. And therefore, for them, when you think about it, if you want to put it in these terms, they're very close to, they basically are doing what we would have had to do here, which is basically take down, collapse most of their society, and rebuild it in ways that are more balanced, that lean toward the light. We would have had to do all of this work here had we not decided to take down the entire planet. Lorrayne. Okay, question. Claire would like to know, and I would too, what percentage of light and dark are on the planet currently? What percentage do we have left right now? Me. Yeah, so we mentioned last week that we are around 1 to 2% for the dark. Again, we need these people, and these people are happy to help us and also happy to stay longer because we discussed the fact that they're afraid. They're afraid of leaving. For the light, we've spoken about the fact that overall, we have about 25 to 30 million people left in total. They're telling me 15. I don't know what that means. Let me just find out. So is it 15% because we were 30% in the beginning? So I don't know if they're saying 15% of the light are left or 15 million. Let me find out. Yeah, so they were telling me that we have 15 million people left on the side of the light right now, on the team of the light that are here. Lorrayne, and can you repeat the percentage of the dark or the number of the dark? And yes, we are aware that they are necessary. Me. Yes, so 1 to 2% of the dark is left. So in the beginning, they were about, let's do some math here. They were 20%. And so that was 340 million people. 1% to 2% would be 3 to 7 million people, basically. 7 million people between, they're actually telling me when we look at the numbers, they're telling me 3 to 4 million of them are left. So it's closer to 1%. So in other words, 3 to 4 million people that are left on the side of the dark. And I don't know if these numbers have changed because this session was done in November, but so not that long ago, probably about 3 weeks ago. So, but the numbers are changing very quickly. When we started looking at this, just even a couple of months ago, we're like 50 million people here, and now we're down to 25 million people. So people are still leaving. Lorrayne, okay, thank you. Next question. How come we did not learn the things we're learning now when we took down the other 2 planets? Is it because we're doing things differently this time around? Me. Yes. This takedown is extremely different from the previous ones. In the previous ones, we did not have to deal. All we have to do is have a planet chosen for these civilizations that moved on, and we did not have to negotiate logistics with other planets to take any of these essences in. And therefore, yeah, we're learning new things. It's like doing a new job, even though the label is the same, which is takedown. This has been completely different. It might as well have been called something completely different. The only thing they have in common is that the end result is the same, which is we are going to dissolve this planet. Now, of course, there are similarities. We're generalizing to explain this concept. There are many things we have already learned from those takedowns that we've also used here. But truly, we've done things in such a different way here that we would say that what we knew was just a small percentage compared to what we've discovered since. And this is also the reason why it's taking this long, because we really are learning something new. And just like we hit snags when we did the very first takedown in the Matrix, we've hit a lot of snags, obviously, with this one. So we didn't know how long it'd take, as we mentioned, and it ended up taking about 300 years. Lorrayne, thank you. This matrix is so old that it seems that we would have learned how to rebalance things before getting to this point. This kind of passivity in the face of the dark advancing reminds Clea of people here who bend in the face of how things are. Are we truly just passive and limited in our thinking, even at our higher self level? And you can tell that I was upset. I think, from this question. I'm just still fighting against the fact that we've had to take this down because we have been playing so poorly. Basically, that's what it is. Me. So this is actually an excellent question, and we understand where Clea is coming from. The reason it's excellent is because we go back to what we explained in the last session. In the last session, Clea asked us a question about emotions. And so we spoke about the fact that we don't feel at higher self level. We don't feel at all in the same way that we feel when we are embodied. When we are embodied, we have all these emotions that don't exist, that we just don't experience at the higher self level. At higher self level, there's just isness. That's all. That's all there is. It's what we told you. We told you from the beginning. It's what we experience here in the 25th dimension. Therefore, even when we speak of things as passive, as opposed to feisty, as opposed to what Clea was thinking about when she was writing this question, which is, I have this personality where I will not bend, I will fight. And therefore, there's also judgment. And of course, no judgment towards Clea for feeling this way. This is how we feel inside the matrix. There's this judgment of people who are helpless. In her opinion, they're weak. They are defenseless. And of course, she believes, as many on this planet do, that because of that, because these, we use terms like sleepers, we use derogatory terms to judge these people. They're the ones that got us into trouble, into the present situation. These sentiments don't exist at a higher self level. So while you might think to yourself, and this was the intent of the question asks, how come I am this feisty? And it's because of my higher self, because I'm connected and I'm in touch. How come we behave so passive? And the fact is, we just don't feel at a higher self level, we just don't even see a reason why we don't have these thoughts, if you want to call it that. And so what happens is that at the higher self level, we ask, am I having fun? Am I being affected in how I want this particular life experience to turn out, to manifest? Yes or no? This is how we think. The purpose, we want to go back to the beginning, to the foundation, the foundational intention behind the matrix. We're coming in to have fun, which very simply means we're going to create this playground and we're going to say, do I want to play here or not? And if I want to play here, do I want to go on the slide or do I want to go on the merry-go-round? And all of a sudden, I go on the merry-go-round, but it's not moving, or it's stopping every 2 seconds because there's something stuck in the wheel. It's not really working the way I want it. Well, all of a sudden, I'm not having fun here. I want to get off this thing. But now getting off this thing is a big deal because now we're dealing with what we, in an embodied manifestation, consider a big deal. Now we got to take this whole merry-go-round down. This is really what's been happening. So it's not that we are passive, it's that we're still hoping this merry-go-round somehow, you know what, I can take it. Maybe even if it stops once every minute, it could be worse. It could stop once every 30 seconds. And it really gets to a point where, sometimes it goes around, but sometimes it's just standing still. Do you see? Where do you draw the line? We tried to call it out. We did call it out. When we say that the light has not been as good at playing the game as the dark has, it doesn't mean the light has done absolutely nothing. We've not been as effective for the simple reason that we thought certain things worked a certain way, or that we would input too much of a certain energy, tweak it too much, and all of a sudden we break the game. We never ever wanted to break the game until we realized, well, apparently breaking the game, which is what the takedown was, right? We're getting rid of this game altogether, was the only solution. We had done everything we could not to break the game. And of course, once we started focusing on, fine, we're just going to take the game down, we weren't thinking, oh, let's change the vibration, because we had already reached such extremes in our perspective. such extreme solutions, because even with the resets, it hadn't worked, where we thought, what else can we do? I mean, what else is available? We did not, even though we've been so, to circle back to the actual wording of the question, even though we've been around a very, 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 very long time, we have not dealt with these situations. Because truly, when you break it down, life in the matrix is very simple. We come in, there are rules, these are board games, they're perfectly fun, perfectly acceptable. Doesn't mean only light, but within a range where we already know these are fun and acceptable, and everybody finds a niche for themselves to enjoy. All of a sudden, we have a couple of games that go completely all right, and we take them down and we're like, I mean, it's unfortunate. These were huge events within the matrix, you can imagine, and that's that. So now we come to this point, and the same thing happens where we're thinking, oh no, not again, but here we are, and trying to salvage it, of course. And then we decide that we're going to do this new thing, and this is actually exciting for us. And so all of a sudden we're focusing on this. So we are not now going back and saying, oh, let's try and recalibrate again. There's no recalibrating. I mean, we're down this path almost where both of us, all of us, and we mean both of us, as in most teams here, are saying, okay, this is the direction we're going in, and we're taking it down anyway. So we learned a lot before, absolutely. But you see, these situations are so extreme in terms of the rest that we have experienced here, that really, I mean, we learned that we could, but really this is not the focus of our entire existence within the matrix, to where we're always looking out saying, oh, another takedown might happen. We never wanted the first one, let alone the second. And this one, my goodness, we already said a million times, we never want to have another one again if we can help it. And now we feel good because we truly believe, after what we're learning right now, that we'll never have to do it again. But we didn't have this experience at a higher self level. At higher self level, if we want to use human terms to describe this, we take everything in stride. I mean, nothing is really as dire, as dangerous as it looks here. Because even taking a planet down, and we're not saying it's nothing to us, we're saying it's very unfortunate, extremely unfortunate. But at the end of the day, it's what it is. We're not scared of it. We are not pained by it in the same way that we would think of it at a human level. It's mostly about, we're looking at it and saying, we really do wish this hadn't happened. We hadn't had to do this. Of course, because the essence wants to have fun. And who's had fun here for the last 9 incarnations? Nobody. This is a waste. This is not, and you already know this, we said many times, we're not here to learn. So it's not that we're saying, well, at least we learned something. Sure, of course, we have more experience. Even with what we're doing now, this is huge. This is amazing what we're learning now. But really, we could have done without, right? I mean, if we want to look at it in the future, and again, future quote unquote, we could say, well, yeah, it wasn't all a waste for sure. We learned so much, wonderful. But that doesn't mean we would have wished for it to happen. So yes, we have learned plenty from being in the matrix, but we haven't really had a lot of extreme situations like this. I have to tell you guys, this answer really truly resonated with me, because I even wrote about this in my first book, Untamed and Free. When I went through my dark night of the soul and I finally came out of it, and it took me years, so many things happened. It was like the perfect storm. I remember seeing people on television. Well, I don't watch television, so it would have been internet. Anyway, I've heard people, I'm sure you have as well, say, oh my goodness, I don't regret anything that's happened in my life because I wouldn't be the person that I am now. And every time I hear this, to this day, I'm saying to myself, bullshit. And I'm sorry, excuse my language. Because here's the thing, I could have done without. I understand I would not be here and I not gone through certain things. My thinking would be different. I would be doing something different. But the truth is, I joke about it. I use this wording. I always say, I don't have a problem with baby fat. You know, people tell you, you know, as you go through life, you lose your baby fat, right? I'm like, what's wrong with baby fat? So what? It means you're happy and you haven't run into a lot of snags. We have a tendency here to believe that, which of course at a 3D level is very true, that you become more competent, stronger, or at least you realize you're aware of your strength if you go through bad things, right? In my case, I've always known that I've always had this feeling that, guess what, we'd be better off if we didn't have to go through these bad things. If there was a way for us just to be happy, we don't have to be super sharp, we don't have to be tempered by pain, which is how I feel is what happened to me. So I could have done without all the crap I've gone through in my life. And I just wanted to point this out because I find this answer actually very refreshing from the 25th. And it totally resonates with me because we like to justify. We don't want to say that was a complete waste of what I went through, right? We want to find some silver lining. And I get that. It's a psychological thing. We want to be able to say it wasn't all a waste. It wasn't all horrible. Here's the beauty of it. I am such a great person. Am I a great person? So much better than I was before. I was happy before. I would have rather not have to go through certain things. So anyway, that's my 2 cents, but I'm glad that 25th says something along the same lines, that at a higher self level, that's how we feel like basically we don't have to learn anything, and we would be so much better not to have to go through such low vibrational situations. All right, and this is Lorrayne's comment. From my limited perspective, an essence never dies. This is a game. I don't feel bad about putting an end or stopping in the middle of a game. So I don't think it's as big a deal as we're thinking it is. I mean, I get it. The higher self, the 25th source, whatever, doesn't want to keep taking down things. But in the bigger scope of things, nobody dies. Me. Yes, and that's important to keep in mind. It's a good reminder that at the end of the day, we're all safe. We said it a million times. We're all in the 25th. Nothing is happening. Everything is our imagination. However, at the same time, we realize, and we appreciate you saying this, of course, you're using a very high level of consciousness. And again, we don't mean level as in higher than anybody else's, but in your particular experience in this lifetime, you have this type of consciousness that you exhibit and that you've worked very hard to align with. But for many people, including Clea, she does, you have to think of it from the perspective of somebody who is playing a game. And you might have no issue pulling out and saying, I don't like this game. I'm not playing anymore. A lot of us love this game and have loved this game, even in this very imbalanced polarity. So Clea has very much enjoyed, for example, her experience here in this lifetime. And she really, even to this day, is sad that, not sad as in desperate. Clearly, there has been some evolution there in her way of thinking about this. But sad that it would have to come to this point. And this really was the gist of the question she asked, which is, why couldn't we fix this before? We keep making the same mistakes. And all of a sudden, we have to take down this planet, which is a beautiful planet. Gaia is a beautiful planet. Don't we all wish we never had to get to this point? And that's what we mean. So we absolutely take what you're saying is important, and we absolutely appreciate you saying that. At the same time, we completely understand it. And also, even from a higher self perspective, this is what we mean when we say we really don't want to have to stop these games, because there are essences that enjoy them. They get stuck in the middle of it. And this is why when we decide on a takedown, we must have the support of everybody, of every essence. But then again, you get the support of essences, but the time comes, like in this case, 300 years later, so many generations later, from a human perspective. Obviously, the essence is always in the now, always the same. 300 years is nothing. It's the blink of an eye. But all of a sudden, you are stopping somebody's existence here while they're actually enjoying it. Now, we know this from a 3D perspective, there hasn't been a whole lot of enjoyment for a lot of people. So you might think to yourself, yeah, okay, well, too bad for you. But I mean, the majority of the planet is not enjoyed. And truthfully, you would be correct. Also because from an essence perspective, we have not enjoyed. We've only started giving you hints when we said, don't only refer to it in terms of 3D, but even at the highest self level. We were speaking about it last time. You want to have a certain type of consciousness, and yet, because of the polarity we've had here, you're not able here at a conscious level to go beyond a certain point, or to accept certain things, or to see certain things. And why is that? Because the vibration just wasn't available. So you see, we were trapped, if we want to use that word. Of course, the essence is always free, but we're quote unquote trapped in many different ways, not just from a 3D perspective, as in, I need to have money to do this. So if I don't have enough money, I cannot do this. So all of a sudden, my experience is limited. Really, we were limited in more ways than one, not just physically. It makes me still sad when I think of what we have had to deal with here, but I believe that they are correct when they say my thinking and my emotions in regards to the takedown have changed. I have done already a lot of mourning. I'm assuming that's probably the reason. I'm sure there will be a lot more we have to go through on the earth that we have to deal with. But at the same time, this time we've been here, this overtime is not being wasted on us. We're all doing a lot of work. So a lot of our consciousness has, I don't want to say matured, but evolved. And therefore, hopefully this will make it easier for us once we do get to New Earth. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.